Well, I was president in 1992 to 1994. One of the few presidents up to that time who had been strictly a classroom teacher without some university or administrative opportunities too. And so one of the things that we began to realize during my presidency was that we really needed to have an office staff, and we started talking about for the first time. Actually, being a full-time teacher, I was hoping that we might develop an office staff while I was president, but of course things like that take time and boards move extremely slow, and by the time the board actually decided they wanted to move ahead, I was no longer president and was on my way out anyway, and so I went ahead and I applied for and became the executive director. Kind of an outcome that had started then. The other main big thing we did was we did a review of our Constitution. We didn't do a new Constitution, but we took a look at it. It had been about 10, 12 years since the Constitution had been amended in any way, and so we thought it was time to look at it. And also in my presidency, I had worked very hard to have every region represented in the elections, and it was very important. We did that, but almost everybody that got elected was from the west side. And so we temporarily added some east side people to just serve as representatives because we have a large number of members on the east side, but of course with 2/3 of the population being on the west side, we were heavily on west. And so at that point we added to the Constitution that we would have east and west representation with at least 3 board members from each side of the mountains to ensure that we would not become overly balanced just because the population was on the west. And that has been in place ever since, and we still work to make sure that we have positions where we run an east person against an east person and a west person against a west person so that we'll guarantee those 3 spots. So those were a couple of the changes that were started and implemented during my term. And we went back to Yakima for our convention. If you look at the history of our conventions up until 1978, we've been in Yakima quite frequently. And then didn't go back for a long time, and in fact I was thinking very seriously probably going to Tacoma, because our membership had said they really, after having tried a couple of hotel conventions instead of being in schools for conventions like we used to be, they said we like being treated like real people and getting to go to, as grown-ups do, to hotels for our convention. And so Ken Noreen in 1988 had piloted the hotel convention, and we went back to school in 1990. Went to Tacoma in 92, and I thought, well, we'll just stay in Tacoma because that's working out well. And 2 Yakima music teachers approached me and said, would you consider coming back to Yakima with your convention? In fact, I had the Tacoma contracts in my car that day that I happened to see them here in Ellensburg at the state. We had a workshop over here. And so I said, okay, and so a few weeks later I went over and took a look, and I had never seen the convention center. That was brand new since we had last been there. We realized that there was another place that we could do a hotel-type convention without having to. We utilize the schools for a lot of things we do, but the convention itself, it wasn't just held in classrooms. And so that really, should I say, cemented the experiment from 88 and 92 of going into that, and we've never gone back to the schools since. In fact, we've outgrown the ability to do that with schools. The convention's become big enough that we need to be in Yakima for our state convention, and then we have our Northwest convention in Seattle, Spokane, and Portland areas. Actually, MEN, let me go back just a little farther. MENC, which is our national organization, started over 100 years ago in Keokuk, Iowa. As a matter of fact, a bunch of music supervisors got together and started an association. And a few years later, they formed the divisions that are still in place today: Northwest, North Central, Eastern, Southwest, Western, and Southern, in the 6 divisions. And they started having meetings every 2 years, divisional meetings, so it would alternate national and divisional. And from the divisional meetings, the state associations kind of broke off. And in 1937, at the Northwest Convention in Portland, WMEA, or the Washington teachers, said, well, we'd like to form our state association. And so they started. It was just kind of an informal offshoot, and just worked its way in. And then the war came along, so not too much happened. But after the war, they started the regular publications. They'd had some occasional publications, but they started regularly making publications, started to run an annual convention in the late 40s, I believe, or I shouldn't say annual, the off year. The Northwest Convention will be 1 year, and then we have a state convention. That pattern continued until 2008, actually. But WMEA incorporated in 1948, so it became an official organization. and was run by a board at the time of 6 volunteers. They ran and they were elected, but it was 6 people, and it was a volunteer. Every 2 years the officers would change. And in the early 80s, the board expanded to its current size of about 17 to 19, which can fluctuate a little bit, but we added curriculum officers, and it's been basically that format ever since. Office was started in 1995. We started the office, where we then hired some staff and have grown the staff now to we will have 7 by next year, seven staff members working in the office. Plus we still have a lot of volunteers. We have over 300 volunteers that run our various events. We have some off-site staff who work part-time to oversee that, but there's just usually full-time teachers who get paid a very small stipend for some other things. WMEA has always been about the kids, but WMEA is actually about the kid because we focus our efforts on what we do for music teachers. We are a teacher professional organization. Our members are teachers. They are not the students. But teachers are about kids. So we do some student activities. It benefits for our membership. We provide the All-State, the All-Northwest, the State Solo and Ensemble Contest, events like this are for kids, but they are an outgrowth of what we do for teachers. We try to provide teachers with in-service opportunities. Of course, our convention every year where they can come and hear great groups. They can come and hear great speakers, learn about teaching techniques, everything from how to fix oboe reeds to the philosophy of standard-based education and how to advocate. I think a real important role we have is advocacy. We've been down to Olympia many times to testify and to keep music education alive. We have rallied the troops a few times to get after our legislators and not let them forget about music education. We do this because we are teachers, and we do it as a teacher organization for our teachers. Who benefits from that? The kids. And so we're really about the kids, even though that's not how the good things that happen for kids are an outcome of our real efforts to make sure that the teachers have all the opportunities they need to do a good job. Yeah, I just think that the opportunity to have served music education, to me, when I was on the board and when I was president and my various roles, I was serving music education. I was serving the organization. I still feel that way today as the executive director, is that it's just an honor to serve this. And music education is so hard. I've often said that I think the reason so few people do music is because it's probably the most difficult subject we teach in school. To really comprehend music, to be able to read music, to communicate with music, it's a science, it's an art, and a lot of people just say, well, it just must be the talented people that can do it. Anybody could learn music. Anybody could learn to do it, but it is very challenging. We have a friend whose daughter was an outstanding trumpet player, outstanding piano player. She went to state contests in Oregon on both instruments. She was a music major. After 1 quarter, she dropped out because she said music theory was the hardest thing she'd ever taken. And so I think we find that the literacy of music expands the mind, and if everybody were to learn music, what a world we'd have.